Hi students, this is Miss Tittle. We are going to be using AmSty this year to do our science lessons. We will do as many lessons hands-on as we can so that you can do science instead of just having to read about it all the time. Now that doesn't mean we're not going to be reading things. We will have different reading selections to read to help us learn about our content, but we will do as much in science as we possibly can that is hands-on. We are going to start with our first AmSty lesson. The unit that we are using right now for 7th grade is called Studying the Development and Reproduction of Organisms. So if you see the letters SDRO, that's just the symbol for our unit that we're on right now. Okay, I'm going to start out by going to our assignment page that will show you what we're going to be doing for lesson 1. So I'm going to escape and go to that. Please bear with me, be patient. This is my first time making a video like this, so please be patient with me. Okay, we're going to go to our daily information. Okay, so SDRO Lesson 1, What are organisms? We're going to be covering our Alabama Course of Study Standards 15, 16, and 17. Now that might not mean a lot to you, but it does give us an idea of where we're coming from in our content for 7th grade life science. Over here we have our learning targets. In this lesson, you should be able to develop a list of traits common to all living things. You should be able to construct a working definition of the word organism. You should be able to list some of the physical characteristics of the organisms shown on the organism photo cards. You should be able to assign each organism a genus and a species name. You should be able to determine the appropriate place for each organism on the habitat poster. And you should be able to construct an explanation of two organisms' similarities and differences based on evidence. Now, most of these things right here that I just mentioned are things that are kind of an introduction to life science or an introduction to living things. This last block right here, which will be one of the last things we do in this lesson, is where we will be using these 3 Alabama Course of Study Standards. We'll be looking at patterns of these organisms, looking at similarities and differences, but we'll talk more about that later. Okay. The assignments for August 28th and 31st are going to be an assignment called Getting Started. With every one of our AmSty lessons, that's one of the first things that we do. So in this lesson, there will be a discussion board on Schoology, and the instructions will tell you to go to the Carolina Science online textbook to read That's Life. And then we will have another reading selection to kind of introduce us to the next part of our lesson. It will be called What's in an Organism's Name? And it's found on pages 10 to 15 in the online textbook. We will be doing a lab. Anytime you see inquiry, that will be one of the investigations or labs that we will do. So inquiry 1.1 goes along with this lesson, and it's called Describing and Naming Organisms. So this video will go into detail about it, but also there will be a lab report and some photo cards that you will add some information to. At the end of every AmSty lesson, we will do a thing called Reflecting on What You've Done. Sometimes I abbreviate that with the first letters. I might abbreviate that ROWYD. And then our last thing is just 4 little short questions to make sure that you have learned what you should have learned in the lesson. And so that will be our formative assessment at the end, kind of like an exit ticket for the lesson.